Alright guys, so quick video about an intervention I have to do on this saddle. So this is my Saevid SCR saddle. It was on my specialized Langster 5.7 kilogram bike, but it got broken. So it broke over this area. So what they have is there's a layer of carbon that goes over this stem that holds the saddle onto the seat post. So you have, maybe you can see it over here. So you have the last layer of carbon over here, the chest shape of it, and then when it comes down it gets blurred out, and over this area is the same. So that's because they put another, just a small strand of just a few layers of carbon, just the fabric over this part, just from there all the way to here, and that's it. I think it also covers this portion. However, what happened is that during a crash, which wasn't even mine, it wasn't even me, it was a friend that crashed my bike, so thanks a lot. So he hit the floor, hit with the saddle against the floor, and I believe it was the reason for it to be cracked over here. So it's cracked over this side or that side. One of this is started to peel off. So let me see if I can show you what happens if I squeeze the saddle. Yes, so you can see it over there. Never mind this color. This is the result of alcohol, isopropyl alcohol. I put it to wash out the dust and grease. So you can see maybe over there. Let me see. Yes, so you see it over this area. It peels off, it kind of lifts. The whole thing lifts off and detaches from, let me see, from this angle I can see it better. Yes, you can see it detaching over there. Yeah, there you go. So this is the result of me flexing the saddle. However, over this part, what happens is that it detaches itself. I think I can even, yeah, I can move it all around. So over this area it's kind of as it should. Over here it peeled off and broken. So what I tried to do is, with a little bit of epoxy, I mixed it up, put it over this side and over that side. That's the only one that's broken. Nevertheless, I tried to reinforce that one. Also, why not, before trying to prevent the same thing from happening here. But it didn't work. So the epoxy broke, and there was nothing I could do about it. So I had to, with the Dremel, clean off all the epoxy. Just, it was looking like this side. I cleaned it off, and now I have the things. I bought this fabric. This is a carbon fiber fabric I bought over the interwebs. So it cost like $8, something like it. So this saddle, just for you to understand, this saddle weighs some 60 grams, and it's actually very, damn, it really got whitish. This saddle weighs 61 grams, and it's actually very strong. Not as strong as the carbon fiber saddles from, say, AliExpress or Amazon, but they are double the weight of this one. However, with the crash, maybe we could see some, yes, there you go. These cuffs over here were the ones that were in the origin of that part of the layup to detach. Why? Because the saddle stops when hitting the ground, but the rest of the bike still wants to go further. And I believe that with that it pushed this stem over or under over this direction and tried to crack it. Just cracked over there. But nevertheless, this is a very, if you don't crash it, it's a very reliable and also comfortable saddle, because it flexes a lot. And if you don't crash it, it lasts a long time. I've had it for 2 years now with no problems. And once the bike was crashed, I noticed this. So, and I also bought some Patex epoxy resin. It's a epoxy and catalyzer. So you have 2 shots. So one here, once and twice. Over that number of times, if you wanna still use the tubes, because each one of these tubes are mixes, and when you put them over there, they kind of mix the 2 agents, and after that they get hardened, and that's it. So you have 2 shots, and if you still want to use the rest of the tube and the tubes, you have to mix them yourselves with a little bit of some small plastic thing, and that's it. So with this now, I cleaned that off, and now I'm gonna cut some small strands of carbon and lay them up. Try to. That's the first time I'm working with actually carbon fiber. I laid up fiberglass and other things, but not carbon fiber in this way. Also, I have to mimic this side, because if I put way too much carbon over there, it gets way too rigid, and this side will suffer. So I have to make it even. Although I don't know how many layers they use for this side, I'll try to eyeball it. Some 2 or 3 should be enough. And also the size of them. So what's the size of this patch? I'll try to figure it out and put it over there. And that's pretty much it. Still not sure how to compress it against this part of the saddle, because I have to. Otherwise, air bubbles will form. I'll have way too much epoxy for the amount of the thickness of the layers. So I have to make it as consistent and as compact as possible. So I'll try to maybe use some, I don't know, some weight, and then imagine a sandbag that can spread out the weight evenly, and leave the saddle as that. Put imagine a small sandbag, and the weight gets there, and tomorrow hopefully I have it cured and finished, and tomorrow I'll have another video showing you the results. Right? Okay, see you. Alright, fellas, so we're on the next day, and maybe there's a little bit too much reflection, which makes this whole spill look a little bit too shiny and wet. It's not even sticky. So it's just wet from the resin. So, but it definitely looks a little bit bad. I'd like to show you how it really is, but you get an idea. So, as it turns out, it's not that easy to lay up carbon fiber. So you can see a little bit of over there. So I laid up 3 sheets of similar sheets of cloth, more or less with this size. Well, they were bigger, but because of this lump, they turn out to be a little bit smaller, which is almost the right size. Maybe a little bit too big. They should end over there. Nevertheless, lay them out, and I got this rib over here, which shouldn't exist. Like you see over here, there's no rib, so the cloth comes over onto the other side and doesn't spread out to the front. But I cannot see an issue with that. I tried to pull it back, but because I was on the resin was starting, it's a really quick resin though, because the resin was starting to harden as I was pulling this off to trying to align it perpendicular to this the stem. It would strip, right, peel off, and I didn't want to mess it too much, so it would start to look like this, shear off or peel off, and it was looking bad enough for me, so I didn't want to mess it up too much. Also, another thing, the fabric is not the same size, so you can see the chest, the chest squares over this side are not the same size as those ones, which I didn't think about it at the time, so I just bought it as it was. I think it was 3K or something, but this one may be 6K or 8K, I don't know. So it's smaller, the mesh is smaller. But because this mesh is bigger, I believe this is 3K, which is the same used in cars and stuff. So from far away, this looks right, and this one looks way too small. For a small part as a saddle, the smallest one looks nicer. Let me show you over this side. Yeah, you know, I don't know. But also, that's from this side. I don't know if this one is the same. Nevertheless, this one is thicker. And because it is thicker, what happens is that when you lay it up, also the thickness of the actual sheet is higher. So when you try to lay up and do the contour around the stem, what happens is that the blend over here is smoother, gets smoother. So instead of have a sharp blend or a sharp contour as you have over here beneath the epoxy, what I have over here is a much smoother wave. Does it have an issue? I don't think so. there's nothing like trying, right? But you know what? We live and learn. This mesh should be thinner. Next time, if I need it, I'll make it, try to match it. Because I believe they use a thinner mesh in order to get the proper contour right. And the thicker the mesh, the more stable it is over smaller ribs or details. But you want it over here to get sharp. So maybe I should have bought a thinner mesh. Never mind. So I have to trim this out. Right now, it overflown a little bit. There's the scratch my friend did. There's a little bit of epoxy over there. Nothing too grave. I have to trim this out and sand it just a little bit to make it look a little bit nicer. And I used 3 layers. Maybe I should have used only 2. But next time I need to, maybe, let's hope I don't need to repair this one. But if I need to, now I know. And next time maybe I'll take this off. Or maybe not, you know. Because if this holds up, why not do the same over here? Maybe trying to make it look nicer. But that's it. The hardest part, definitely, to make this thing work is when you apply the fabric, it strips off. So you have the square shape. Instead of having, like you see over here, instead of having straight squares, aligned squares, they start to get all wavy. Because say you start to press against the original part and the squares open up. I'm not sure how to go around it. Maybe with pre-preg. There's a lot of videos over the internet trying to explain this. Maybe with pre-preg, a little bit of this issue goes away. But as you can see, a lot of it's stripped out. So a lot of fibers. They are more or less on the same plan. So there's, although it looks bad, there's nothing on the function that gets affected by it. But it looks like shit. There's no way around it. But they peel off. So these strands peel off, which makes it way harder for you to then go back and try to make it sort of work, because once off, there's no way to strand them or lay them in, mesh them together again. So that's one. You cannot put the paste back in the tube, right? So that's the main issue here. Maybe with pre-preg you can get around it. Another thing is that maybe I could just use 1 layer and let it sit and cure and dry up, and then just use a cosmetic layer over it with much less tension or less epoxy to make it maybe look a little bit nicer. But you know what? Who gives a shit? This just has to work. I'd prefer for it to look better, but if it works, that's it. So that's it. That's the video about a shitty repair. You can also see over here. Try to clean up the whitish thing. So you can see it over here that also in the factory, the top layer, that's the one that bonds this or covers this, those front parts of the stem. They also got a little bit bent because I guess they just pushed it down with some gloves, and while taking the finger off or while pushing inwards. They twisted their finger, and it resulted in this layer to get a little bit wavy. But you can see it's much thinner than the one I used. So maybe that's part of it. And yes, it is a manual labor. You can see it clearly that all of it was done by hand. Also, you can see some Dremel marks over there. I believe they tried to clean off this area. Not sure if before or afterwards. Before or after putting the stem over here. I'm not sure. They definitely cleaned off this area. Maybe they supported. You can see it's a little bit thicker over there than it is over that side or on that side. Maybe they had a support over here for this mold and then had to clean it off with a Dremel, just like I did over there, and then get this part close enough and then lay up 1 or 2 layers of a simple fabric and try to push it down inside of there and hope for the best, I guess. Yeah, it's a very manual or human intensive work. You can see that it requires a lot of attention and craftsmanship. It's a nice saddle. Well, I overextended myself a little bit. I hope it gives you some insight about carbon saddles. They're good. If it was now, I would just buy an Amazon or AliExpress saddle. No need for anything fancier. But Saevid, they're good guys, good people. They make good saddles, affordable prices, and they look really good. You can see the fiber. There's no epoxy layer over the fiber. You got the pre-preg. I believe this one is pre-preg, right in contact with the mold, just with with a little bit of wax to take it off the mold. But that's it. This is actually, can hear the fiber. This is not epoxy. That's the way they make it lighter, and it really looks good. The other one I have, the S1 or S2, has a little bit of a layer of epoxy or some acrylic stuff over the carbon fiber. This one doesn't. Same thing, only the other one is a little bit more protected from the UV, but that's it. I believe this one looks a little bit better, but that's just me. Alright guys, subscribe, like, and I see you on the next one. Take care.